Apolo Ohno is the most decorated Winter Olympian in United States history, with 8 medals in short track speed skating, including 2 gold medals. And the Olympic hero has now become a financial hero as part of digital wealth manager Personal Capital's latest initiative. We're so proud to say Apolo Ohno joins us now. Apolo, welcome to the show. We're so excited to have you. Why did you decide to join Personal Capital for this very initiative?
I'm really glad you asked me that. I think personal capital really embodies a lot of the elements that I believe that we're all moving towards, purpose-driven and using metrics and financial tools to really help us manage and track our entire kind of financial dashboard. As we look into this realm of both constant self-improvement, which I've been obsessed about for many, many generations, but also in terms of how we view transition, reinvention, and pivoting in our lives. Money has been a big part of that. And so having kind of this clear, open, transparent conversation around finances is something that I had to deal with growing up with my own father. And also when I decided to retire, what was that process going to look like for me? And so this is kind of this encouragement and embodiment around people who I hold near and dear to my heart, people like Baron Davis, who have been these types of ambassadors and spokespersons in the past, and people like Deepak Chopra. So this idea that finances and our personal health and well-being are intrinsically tied is something that I think is very 2021. And the greater transparency and openness that we can have around money, around conversations that really open up to the world of what are the possibilities and how do we remain focused on the process versus prize.
So, Paul, how will you help promote healthy financial habits and, of course, inspire others to reach those same goals?
So I think when you think about, the relationship that I had with my father, for example, someone who was living the American dream, who came to this country, tried and did every single possible job imaginable to survive and eventually thrive in this country. The conversation around money and the way that my dad used it as really a bartering tool or a way to just have access to food and a place to live. I had different types of dreams and aspirations, especially during my career and post. And so the conversation around inclusivity, around how can we have a greater transparent dashboard really kind of to center us and bring us back. Right? We know how distracting the world is with all the kind of social media, every new venture and business and whatever the hype is and the current flavor of this particular quarter or year, sometimes it takes us away from what's truly important. I think that when we have a financial metric, when we have a dashboard in which to come back to, I call it the home base, it gives us that true north and kind of that realignment that we need to make sure that we understand that we can do anything, but we can't do everything. And so if it doesn't fit in this category of what's important to me, my family, my overall health and wellness, then maybe I need to stay more centered on the things that really matter.
You retired from skating, Apolo, following the 2010 Olympics. What are some of the biggest challenges you had to overcome as you pivoted into a career in business?
So the number one greatest challenge, I think, is the issues and conflict that we have with identity. So someone maybe who's not an Olympic athlete, but I was married to that identity of Olympic champion, getting the external signals to tell me that this is what you are, this is what you're good at, and you're nothing else. And so I had to do deep explorative work and really kind of go on this life adventure to figure out, what am I good at? What else out there am I passionate about? And how does this fit in my overall landscape of what's important to me in the long term? And so that transition from Olympic athlete to what's next is challenging. And oftentimes we find ourselves kind of looking up after a couple of years, and I call it the great divorce, right? I've been writing a book about this for the past 2 years, about this psychological issue that happens when we have to divorce away from that pre-identified version of ourselves. And as we move to upgrade to the 2.0 version, it's going to take a lot of challenges and a lot of opportunities to grasp, but also consistency in developing new habits. And maybe that is having a different conversation around money, around sponsorships, around speaking engagements, around business, around venture, whatever that topic might be. I think that the more that we can understand that this is going to be a process, right? Again, the Olympic Games are for 40 seconds for me. That was my favorite race, the 500 meters. But the reality is it was a 10-year, decade plus long journey to reach the start line. And so as we kind of zoom out, I think it's very important for us to understand the overall landscape. And when we do, it keeps us centered, it keeps us focused, and I think overall, it keeps us fulfilled. But for sure, the mental aspect is always the most tying and trying for any athlete. or any person who has been doing one thing their entire life. And then at the snap of a finger, maybe they feel like life has passed them by. Technology is moving at a pace that they don't understand. And now they have to figure out, how do I find my place in the world? And I think that this is one of those elements. And that's why I'm really happy to partner with Personal Capital about talking about one of those elements of wellness, and it happens to actually be finance.
This is such an incredible perspective, Apolo. Thank you for that. There's another subject that we talk about a lot here on Cheddar. You are a huge player in the cryptocurrency space. You founded the exchange HybridBlock. So tell us what your platform offers and what you would advise investors, especially during the recent volatility that we've been seeing.
Yeah, so look, I think that when people look at digital assets and the cryptocurrency landscape in general, like me, I was very excited about this about 5 years ago. That's when I first heard about this kind of digital evolution of what these types of assets would look like, how they would be programmable, how do we differentiate the ways that we talk about money and value and transference of value. I think the most important thing here that we all have to see is that this is a community-led effort. There are so many interested parties, not only in the States, but around the world, globally, who are saying, here is a new asset class and many different iterations of that. So whether you are building protocol layers on top of Ethereum, or you are someone who sees Bitcoin as a digital store of gold or a competitor to gold, whatever that thesis or narrative is, again, we're 11, 12 years into this experiment. So I don't think that anyone has the actual idea of where this is going. We're getting some indicators around how to place where your bets are going to be. But if I told you that I could read the future, I think I would be in a much different position. So overall, I love the space. I think there's incredible minds. We've seen this mass wave, not only from these Reddit-fueled forums of people talking about which stocks to buy, but also in terms of which type of even these meme coins. And so when you kind of zoom out beyond the frenzy, you try to think about, where is this going and how important is this? If you talk to someone who's 12, 13, 14 years old and you say, would you rather hold gold or would you rather hold Bitcoin? I think the conversation is changing. So we like to keep our eyes open and palms ready to accept any and all information.
I do want to switch gears a little bit. Yesterday, tennis star Naomi Osaka withdrew from the French Open, citing her mental health. You're a former athlete. You've had this limelight on you. What is your reaction to this? And how difficult is it, Apolo, right now for athletes to maintain their mental health?
Well, in particular to Naomi, I know that she has been vocal and also leading with vulnerability around being open around her challenges, both with mental health and kind of the external expectations that the world and media has on you. And I tweeted at her this morning and I said, look, I support you 100%, whatever your decisions are. We never know what's going on inside someone's head, no matter how much capital, how much money that they have had. Sometimes the greatest tool in the world is only 12 inches long, right between our ears. It's also something that can be our own prison. And so I think the more that we can destigmatize this entire conversation around mental health and open ourselves up to say, hey, there are different modalities out there. There are people willing and ready and open to helping you work through some of these challenges. You don't have to be someone who has this disease or has this issue or has this challenge that you have to keep it to yourself. There are millions, over almost 800 million people around the world have touched mental health illnesses and associations with trauma in some capacity. And so we as a society are leading front facing and saying, we want to help any and all, regardless if you are one of the greatest to have ever played tennis or whatever that is. And so my heart goes out to Naomi. It goes out to her and her family to know that we're here for her. Whether she is ready and willing to open up to us in her own way, we want to support her in whatever decisions that she has, because we really believe deep down that she's a special human. And the way that she can help move this conversation forward is also really powerful.
I also want to talk to you about the upcoming Olympics. They're scheduled to begin right around the corner, Apolo. I don't have to tell you, July 23rd. But of course, the status of the game remains in question due to the pandemic. So how difficult is this for athletes who are working out, making other preparations for such a big event? Because I have no doubt training is very intense.
Training is very intense, and they're just putting the final touches and the finishing touches on their display and expression of their own art. And that is to be the best they can possibly be. The Tokyo Games has obviously been challenged significantly, as the world globally, and we're still going through these challenges. We are not fully out yet, although I know some of us here in the United States have been fully open, but it is a constant conversation. I am always on with members from the U.S. Olympic Committee, members from the IOC, and members from the actual Tokyo and NBC organizing group. And I think that people believe that they have the indicators that this is going to move forward. It's going to be a very different games. However, the world needs sport. And so my heart goes out to all those, especially the Japanese people, who are very reluctant to saying, I'm not sure if we should be having this. I think a greater conversation is, how can we prove to the world that we have the capability to host a global event safely, efficiently, so that the world can participate in something that we have had on hiatus for about 2 years?
Apolo, I will say again, it's such a privilege to talk to you. Thank you for your insight and your context. Apolo Ohno, world champion speed skater and Personal Capital's next financial hero. Also, we want to wish you a happy belated birthday, Apolo. Thank you again, joining us from Miami.